to the Chov Podcast. My name is Linda Robbins, and this is Patrick Jasper Lee. Would you like to say hi, Jasper?
Hi, hello everyone.
Hi. Okay, so we've got this podcast because we've got a number of subjects that we're going to be chatting to you about. But we thought we would start off today by Jasper explaining what is a chov, what is a shavano. So, Jasper, what is it?
Okay, right, yeah, a good question. The origins of this, I've researched this word countless times, and you don't really come up with much. There's all different things, all in every languages. I know it as Shavano, or I mean, I can't pronounce it as it should be pronounced. It probably something like Shavano, because they used to have the going. So that's when it's spelt Chovihano. It's the H that does that, but we'll leave that out because the British people and the Westerners can't cope with that, and I can't anyway. But the origins, some say witch, some say priest. There's all different origins. So I've given up on researching that one. I just know it's in the family. But what is one? That's the thing. Basically, it's aligned to, you could say, a shaman. I don't like to use that word shaman. People who know me don't, they know I don't always like using the word shaman, but that's the closest it comes to. Now, the Shavano in the Romani culture is very much to do with the social side of what goes on, as well as the healing and medicine side of what goes on in the tribe. My great grandfather, Jack Lee, passed everything I know down through my grandmother to me. I mean, sometimes it was directly to me, but because he was a lot older than me, most of it had to come from my grandmother. But I do remember watching him doing his stuff, performing rituals and doing different bits and pieces. And he used to go into trance and have ancestors come through and talk about healing everybody and blah blah blah. All the sorts of things that you might see in a regular sort of shaman, except we weren't doing it as a ceremony. A lot of people say it's a ceremony. We didn't see it like this. I suppose, I don't know, we probably saw it as a meeting with the other world. Because if somebody needed something, one of us needed something, or anybody came into the family and needed something, then he would consult the other world, and my grandmother would help with that, etc. But he passed most of it down to me, and for many, many years I didn't do much about it. I did it within the family and with a few friends, and it was only when I met a literary agent that she said, and I talked to her about it, she said, write about that. Write about that. Never mind writing novels, which I went to her with. Write about what it means to be a Romani Shavano. So I did, and We Borrow the Earth was born, and it's still circulating around the world now, and helping people to understand what a Romani Shavano, or Chov, as we're saying on these podcasts, is. So there's a lot involved with it, but basically it is a lot to do with healing, helping people cope with today's society. I do that an awful lot in my work because it's what we need now. It's absolutely what we need now, and I think it's more needed now than ever, really. So
Yeah,
I hope
I
that
agree.
explains a little bit about it.
Yeah, thank you for that. Now, something you and I have discussed privately before is, can anybody, obviously you do training courses, I've been training with you now for the last 2 years on the shamanic counselling course. Some of the things that people come out with is, can anybody become a shavano?
In a word, no. No.
Mm.
And I say that quite strongly because there's a lot of people today who come across shamanism and they see it represented in many workshops around the world. They might do a little bit of research, but probably not much. But it seems to be a free for all. It seems to be something that's up for grabs. And it's
Yeah.
because there's no recognised proper legal training for it, because all these cultures that have had shamans, different words for whatever you want to use for shaman, all these cultures, it's been passed down through the generations, as it was with me. So to sort of step in from the cold or from out of the blue and to think, right, I'll be a shaman. They do this because there's no recognised qualification unless you go to somebody in Siberia or Mongolia or somewhere in India or wherever. It's not the sort of thing that you can just pull out of the bag or get off the shelf and say, I am this or that shaman. Basically, you've got to have a lot of training. That's what's behind it. You've got to have a lot of being pulled through the hedge backwards, as the saying goes. You've got to go through a lot to actually get to the stage where you can even begin to say that you understand what shamanism is. That's why I use the term shamanic interaction in my courses and workshops and what I teach, is because we need to understand what the interaction of shamanism is, the fact that you're reflecting the person's suffering, you're reflecting all sorts of things. Becoming a shaman in the world today, in the modern world today, is not something that you can do just like that. It's like anything. It needs apprenticeship.
And I have to say, on the back of the conversation that we've had about it before, I've thought a lot about it. And to be honest, why would somebody want to become a shaman or a shaman? Because it is such a huge commitment.
Yeah.
And like you say, in this day and age, we don't have the time for those commitments anymore because we've got so many other things that we need to be doing. However, I know through doing your courses that people can get an awful lot out of it, and then also be there to help people on a level that is easier to deal with these days.
Yeah, that's right. I think as you said that, I was thinking of the word pain.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Excuse me. There's a lot of pain that one comes across. The thing is, it's the glamour that people are attracted to. I'm holding a drum. I'm dressed in, especially poor old Native Americans have suffered a lot with this, and most of them hate it. Most of the original ones hate it. I look glamorous. If I look glamorous, wow, that goes today, because we've got self-image, obsession with self-image, selfies, all that technology, what it produces for us, that we can admire ourselves. But that's not all it is. That's not anything about it, actually. It looks good to sport all these things, but what about the other side of it? What about what you have to go through? If you mention that somebody has to go through hell sometimes, go through their worst nightmare, encounter all the things they haven't addressed from the past, there's many different things, and they think, oh, well, I'll put that aside. I want to be a shaman, but I don't need to address that. And that, unfortunately, is what a lot of these New Age and neo-shamanic courses are about. They're pulling people in purely for the glamour, purely because it looks good, not for the pain that you have to go through when you become a true shaman.
Yeah. And on the back of that, this was another question, because obviously you have your big ram and little ram.
Oh, yes.
People see you wandering around with a big stick in your hand, and it's like, what are all these props? You got your tambourine.
Yes.
So how would you explain that to people?
Yes, you see, when I introduce these tools, we might call them, I have to stress that I don't walk about with a ram, with a staff, that's decorated. I don't walk about with it at home. It's something I only use when I'm in contact, usually with ancestors. But the word Ran is what we use, and that, again, it's a word that I think it can mean stick, it can mean things related to a stick, a wooden stick, but I only use it for those sorts of purposes because, a lot of people want to. it reminds me, I've been in a photograph sometimes where I'm holding my Ran as a Shavano, and I've got about 6 people beside me are also holding theirs, and and I think, what have you done to earn that?
Yeah.
Because you only acquire the tool if you've found it, when you're walking about, but also if you've had the relevant experience to be able to use it and call it a Ran. You dress it with feathers, you dress it with shells, you dress it with all sorts of things if you wish to, but it comes as a result of things you've been through. The pain, again, it comes as a result of that. So having a staff, a staff, just a stick for walking, that's different, or an older person. In the older times, that everybody used one, but an actual Ran, it's a magical tool, and usually it's a tree that will offer that. You don't break branches off, it's a tree that gives you that. And I have a big one and I have a smaller one with bells on for a kind of a meditation purpose when I help people to go into their inner selves. The big one is used more for ancestry and healing and stuff. So
people have obviously been on your workshops and have heard you say your dislike for people using drums, because again, it's taking it from other cultures. You use a tambourine, and obviously I would say that is tradition of the Romany gypsies. Am I correct in that?
Yes, it is. Yeah, the tambourine is something different from a Ran. The Ran is usually used to almost like a conductor of energy, if you like. I don't like using that word, but it's a conductor of energy. The tambourine it's all about rhythm, and as the drum is, and drums are okay. Romanies sometimes use drums, but again, I'm always careful about buying into the idea that I'm only using a drum because I want to look glamorous. It comes back to I do feel for the Native Americans. I think they suffered a lot with this, because some people paint their drums with all sorts of things and stuff, but patterns. But with a tambourine, it's a unique rhythm, and it's an old rhythm that I actually play, and it helps people to go into another state of mind. It helps them to relax. But it also brings them alive, because it's a specific kind of rhythm. But it is very peculiar to the Romani people. They always used it for any kind of rhythm, for dancing around the campfire and all sorts of things like that. The drums as well, usually. And we can graduate onto drums, obviously, once we've understood that a drum is to be respected and to be used. And people used to talk to their drums, talk to their tambourines, talk to their tools, Rans, everything in any shape or form, to get them to understand that we have respect for them, and will you work for me, please? Will you help me? So it's a long process, and it's an arduous process. You've got to graduate towards all these different tools that you might use. There's a limitation of tools with what I do, because I think you've got to find something in yourself and then use the tools, not rely on the tools to give you what you actually need to perform anything you're doing. So
yeah, I think that's really important. Okay, that's wonderful, Jasper. We've covered quite a bit of ground there today.
yes,
Our next podcast that we're going to be talking about is the role of the Puradai, because our podcast is the Chov and the Puradai. So we will be chatting about that next time. In the meantime, I'd just like to thank everybody for watching our podcast. Please remember to subscribe. Jasper and I both do workshops ourselves. I'm still continuing to work with Jasper at the moment. I'm still in my second year of training, so he's putting me through my ropes, so to speak. So please come and join us again now in a month's time for the podcast about what is a Puradai. Thank you very much, Jasper, and I will speak to you soon.
Yeah,
Bye,
thank
everyone.
you. Bye.